a friendly ball of warmth that makes photosynthesis happen and gives us a nice tan. But that sense of safety is a lie. It is a complete optical illusion. If you could see the sun with the eyes of a physicist, or through the lens of a high-energy telescope, you wouldn't see a warm friend. You would see a chaotic, screaming ball of magnetized plasma. You would see an explosion that never stops. And every once in a while, that explosion turns its barrel directly at us. We are living in the crosshairs of a cosmic shotgun. And the scary part isn't that it might go off. It's that it already has, repeatedly. And we have simply been lucky enough to dodge the bullet in the modern age. But luck is not a strategy. Because if the sun sneezes in just the right way, tomorrow morning doesn't happen. The internet goes dark. The GPU network fails. The power grid that keeps billions of people alive melts into slag. We aren't talking about a bad day at the office. We are talking about being sent back to the Stone Age in less than 15 minutes. To understand why we are so vulnerable, you have to understand the anatomy of the weapon itself. The sun is not a solid object. It is a churning ocean of superheated gas, electrically charged and twisted by magnetic fields that are constantly snapping and reforming. When these magnetic fields get tangled enough, they break. And when they break, they release energy that makes our entire nuclear arsenal look like a firecracker. This release comes in a 1-2 punch. The first punch is the solar flare. Think of this as the muzzle flash of the gun. It is a blast of pure radiation, mostly X-rays and extreme ultraviolet light, erupting from the surface. It travels at the absolute speed limit of the universe, the speed of light. That means 8 minutes after it leaves the sun, it is here. It slams into the upper layer of our atmosphere, the ionosphere, and instantly cooks it. This layer swells up, becoming turbulent and thick. If you are a pilot flying over the Atlantic, or a ship captain in the Pacific relying on high-frequency radio, your signal doesn't just get static, it vanishes. The radio waves are absorbed by the sky itself. That is the flash. But the flash is just the warning shot. The real killer is the bullet that follows. This is the coronal mass ejection, or CME. While the flare is light, the CME is matter. It is billions of tons of the sun's own body, magnetized plasma, ripped off and hurled into space at millions of miles per hour. It creates a tsunami of solar particles, a shockwave that expands as it crosses the void. It is slower than the light, taking anywhere from 15 hours to a few days to reach us. It is a silent, invisible hurricane moving through the vacuum. When this wave crashes into Earth, it doesn't hit the ground. It hits our shield first, the magnetosphere. This is the invisible magnetic bubble that protects us from the harsh radiation of space. But a massive CME is too much for the shield to handle. It strikes the day side of Earth with the force of a sledgehammer. It compresses the magnetic field on the sun-facing side and stretches it out into a long, snapping tail on the night side. The entire magnetic structure of the planet begins to ring like a bell. This is a geomagnetic storm, and this is where the physics gets terrifying. As the magnetic field fluctuates wildly, it induces electrical currents. Not in the sky, but in the ground. Electricity starts flowing through the crust of the Earth itself. These are called geomagnetically induced currents, or GICs. And electricity, like water, is lazy. It wants the path of least resistance. Rocks are hard to flow through. But you know what isn't? The thousands of miles of copper and aluminum wires we have draped across the planet. Our power lines, our pipelines, our undersea internet cables. They act like giant antennas, harvesting this cosmic energy and channeling it directly into our machines. The very infrastructure we built to power our civilization becomes the weapon that destroys it. You might be thinking, okay, this sounds like a cool theory, but has it actually happened? It has, and the stories are absolutely chilling. We have to go back to 1859, the Victorian era. No internet, no grid, just the telegraph. On September 1st, an amateur astronomer named Richard Carrington was projecting an image of the sun onto a plate of glass. He saw two patches of blinding white light erupt among the sunspots. He had just witnessed the muzzle flash. 17 hours later, the bullet arrived. The Carrington event remains the most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded. The sky turned blood red. People in the Caribbean, people in Hawaii, woke up thinking their cities were on fire because the aurora was so bright. In the Rocky Mountains, miners woke up at 1:00 a.m., started cooking breakfast, and went to work, convinced it was morning. But inside the telegraph offices, the high-tech hubs of the 19th century, it was chaos. The wires became overloaded with solar electricity. Keys sparked and shocked the operator's hands. The paper tape used to record Morse code dots and dashes didn't just smoke, it burst into flames. In a moment of accidental genius, some operators realized the current from the sky was stronger than their batteries. They disconnected the power sources and sent messages to each other using nothing but the electricity generated by the storm. They were chatting on a solar-powered internet before the light bulb was even invented. That was 1859. The technology was primitive. A few sparks, a few fires, a great light show. Humanity moved on. But what happens when you fast forward to a world that runs on delicate silicon chips and massive voltage transformers? We got a preview of that in 1989. A massive CME erupted and headed for Earth. It wasn't even close to the size of the Carrington event, but the target had changed. The target was Quebec, Canada. Quebec sits on a massive shield of igneous rock. This rock does not conduct electricity, so when the storm hit and the currents formed in the ground, they had nowhere to go. They looked for an escape route and found the Hydro-Quebec power grid. The extra current surged into the lines. It overwhelmed the system's defenses. In less than 90 seconds, the entire province went dark. 6 million people lost power instantly. Schools closed, the metro stopped, the airport shut down. It was freezing cold, and the heat was gone. That blackout lasted 9 hours. It was a warning shot across the bow of modern civilization. It proved that a storm from the sun could reach down and turn off the lights of a modern nation in less time than it takes to boil an egg. So let's play out the nightmare scenario. Let's simulate a Carrington-class event hitting us today, in the 2020s. Imagine it's a Tuesday. The notification pops up on your phone. Extreme space weather alert. But unlike a tornado warning, there is no basement to hide in. The CME hits. The first thing you notice isn't the lights going out. It's the silence of your digital life. The satellites are the first to die. The Jeep's constellation, which guides everything from your Uber driver to global shipping containers to the timing of financial transactions, begins to drift and fail. The high-energy particles fry their circuits. Next, the power grid. The induced currents surge into the high-voltage transformers. These are the hearts of the grid. Massive devices the size of houses that step down voltage so it can be used. They are designed for alternating current, not the massive direct current spike the sun delivers. The steel cores inside them become magnetically saturated. They vibrate violently. They heat up. The oil inside them boils, and then they melt. They turn into useless piles of slag. Across the continent, safety relays trip. The grid doesn't just flicker, it collapses. But this isn't a normal blackout. In a normal blackout, you fix the line and flip the switch. In this scenario, the hardware itself is destroyed. These transformers aren't sitting on a shelf at Home Depot. They are custom-built, cost millions of dollars, and take 12 to 18 months to manufacture. And we don't build them here, we import them. But we can't import them because the ships can't navigate, the cranes can't operate, and the fuel pumps don't work. Society begins to unravel fast. Within 24 hours, the water stops. Municipal water depends on electric pumps. Taps run dry. Toilets stop flushing. Sanitation becomes a memory. Within 48 hours, the grocery shelves are empty. Just-in-time delivery relies on digital logistics and fuel, both of which are gone. No refrigeration means all perishable food spoils immediately. Hospitals run on diesel generators, but diesel lasts 3 days. What happens on day 4? The financial system evaporates. Your bank account is just a number on a server that no longer has power. Credit cards are useless plastic. We are talking about a total systemic collapse that could last for years. A report by the National Academy of Sciences estimated the cost could hit $2 trillion in the first year alone. With a recovery time of 4 to 10 years, it would be the single most expensive disaster in human history. This sounds like doom-mongering, but there are people whose entire job is to stop this from happening. We are in a race against time. The sentinels of this war are agencies like NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center. They are watching the sun 24 hours a day. 7 days a week. They use satellites like DS Cover, parked 1,000,000 miles away from Earth at a gravity-neutral point called Lagrange Point 1. It acts like a tsunami buoy in deep space. When the solar storm passes that satellite, we get a warning. But here is the terrifying part. We only get a warning of about 15 to 60 minutes. That is the lead time. In that hour, grid operators have to make impossible choices. Do they proactively shut down the grid to save the transformers? Do they spin up reserves? Do they gamble that the storm's magnetic field is oriented north, which would bounce off our shield rather than south, which would rip it open? We are getting better. We are building better models. We are designing harder grids. But the sun is waking up. We are currently approaching the peak of solar cycle 25, a period of high activity. In May 2004, we took a hit from a G5 storm, the highest rating on the scale. We got lucky. It dazzled us with auroras, but it missed the knockout blow. But the sun has infinite ammo, and it has all the time in the world. We have built a civilization that is more fragile than we care to admit. We have strung our lives along thin wires and invisible signals, assuming the star next door will always be friendly. But the history books and the physics tell a different story. The beast is sleeping, but it twitches. And one day, it will roar. The question isn't if it will happen. The question is, when the lights go out and the phone stops working and the silence sets in, will we be ready? This is a threat that usually flies under the radar until it's too late. I want to know what you think. Are we investing enough in protecting our grid, or are we just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best?